So we've already colored the vocabulary for today, and I want you to kind of commit those colors to memory because we're going to be using them throughout the notes, which yes means you're going to have to share the markers really quickly between ourselves when I'm using that particular color for a vocabulary word. But you have your resource there for you. I'm going to zoom in now on our notes so that we can start looking at how or what these vocabulary words that you colored even mean. So today we're talking about the different kind of angles that are formed by parallel lines. A couple things to note today so that you make sure you know what I'm talking about. Do y'all see these symbols right here? The little beep boops. I don't know what to call them. They kind of look like arrows, but they're not at the end of the line. See how they're marked on there? That tells me that they're parallel. If you do not see those beep boop marks, you cannot tell me that two lines are parallel. Even if they look like it, you can't trust your brain anymore. You'd have to check their slopes. But if you see that little arrow sign, the beep boop sign, you know that those are parallel. Okay? Today we're going to be talking about angles created by a transversal. Let me go answer the phone. A transversal is a line that intersects two or more parallel lines at different points. So in our image on our notes right now, the transversal is this line right here. Do you see how this line called A crosses through two lines that are marked as parallel? That means that the name of the line in this image that is the transversal is line A, because it's called an A next to it. So we're going to call the transversal in this image line A because it crosses through two marked parallel lines. Remember, they have to be marked. Now let's talk about all of this vocabulary that we colored on our document. The first word we're talking about is corresponding angles. So grab your red marker and let's highlight this in red. And if you're going to highlight it with a marker, it will kind of like mark through it. Maybe just put a box around it so you can still read the words. Corresponding angles are the red angles that you colored on your little paper. Your red angles, and I know red and pink are really close together, so make sure you're looking at the actual red part. Corresponding angles are angles that lie on the same side of the transversal and have the same position. They're literally like in the same spot. So if we look at this image right here, and I'm looking at angle 1, that's on the parallel line M. Which angle is in the same spot on this side as 1? 3. So the corresponding angle to angle 1 is angle 3. So angle 1 and angle 3 are corresponding. But we can do this for all of the corresponding angles on this page. So if we look at angle 2, what angle is corresponding to angle 2 on the other parallel line? 4. So we have angle 2 and angle 4 are corresponding. What's corresponding with 5? 7. Angle 5 and angle 7. What's corresponding with 6?
8.
Angle 8. Do you see how all of those pairs of angles are in the same spot, just on two different parallel lines? They're on the same side of the transversal and in the same position as the other parallel line. Those are your corresponding angles. That's your red angle on your document that you colored this morning. Those of you who have walked in late, I will put that up at the end of class so you know what I'm talking about. Please get to class on time. Our vertical angles, we colored in yellow on our document. So I need you to all find the yellow marker, and I want you to highlight the words vertical angles in yellow. We've already discussed vertical angles in this class. Vertical angles are non-adjacent angles formed by intersecting lines that are across from each other. They are congruent just like our corresponding angles. So if we look for vertical angles, and I know can y'all see that? The yellow that I just drew? Yes? Okay, I'm just making sure. If we look, what is vertical to angle 1 in our image? What's directly across from it, vertical to it? Angle 6. What's vertical to angle 2? Angle 5. What's vertical to angle 3? 8. And what's vertical to angle 4? 7. Vertical angles are congruent, the same way corresponding angles are congruent. So we have a lot of congruency and a lot of relationships between angles on a transversal. This is what we're learning today. The next vocabulary word we've also already discussed in this class is called a linear pair. I need you to get a pink marker and highlight the word linear pair. That's the color. We colored it on our document. And yes, pink and red are kind of hard to tell the difference between, but do your best. For a linear pair, these are not congruent. These are going to be called supplementary. When we learned about linear pairs before, because the word linear looks like the word line, you could actually underline that if you want. Linear pairs make a straight line. So there are so many linear pairs in this image. We're only going to talk about 4 of them. What is a linear pair with angle 1? What makes a straight line with angle 1? Angle 2. Angle 2 makes a straight line with angle 1. But also, angle 1 has a different linear pair. What else does angle 1 make a straight line with? Ooh, look, that's the corresponding part. So 3 is corresponding to it. It has to like literally be touching it and make a straight line. So if you look 5, isn't it touching it and makes a straight line? It's just like that parallel line instead of the transversal. That's great. So we also have a linear pair with angle 1 and angle 5. Let's switch our brain to looking at angle 3. What is the linear pair with angle 3? 4, because it makes a straight line. Very good. But angle 3 also has a different linear pair. What is angle 3's other linear pair? 7. Very good, because these make a straight line. Again, that vocabulary was from an earlier unit, not that, we did a whole probability unit in the middle. But we're talking about different relationships between angles across a transversal. So far, we've had 2 relationships that tell us the angles are congruent. What does congruent mean, by the way? Oof, that's an actual question I want you to answer. What does congruent mean? Congruent means the same. So when we're talking about corresponding angles and vertical angles being congruent, we're saying they have the same measurement. If one of them is 80 degrees, the other one is 80 degrees. But our linear pair is called supplementary. Does anyone remember what supplementary means? They add up to a particular number. What number do they add up to? 180. So let's put 180 right here, since obviously we kind of had a little cricket moment right there. Supplementary means 180 degrees. Congruent means the same. So we're going to put the equal sign with the squiggly mark on top of it, because that means congruent. But that helps us remember that they're the same. Let's look at some of the other vocabulary words we're introducing for today. Again, we're going to do particular colors on these so they match our image that we colored at the beginning of class. We have what are called, I believe yours says, consecutive interior angles. What does mine say on the screen? Same side means the same thing as consecutive. So I want you to change your notes. Don't mark out the word consecutive, because that's the one I want you to use. But I want you to make sure that you know same side is the same thing as consecutive. So add the words same side to your image, and I'll add the words consecutive. So these ones we're going to highlight in green. So grab the green color, green marker, and I want you to highlight in green, or just put a box around consecutive interior angles in green. Now again, mine says same side because that means the same thing. Consecutive means they're on the same side of the interior part of this image. So they're on the same side of the transversal line on the inside of the parallels. These are supplementary, so we know again that equals 180 degrees. Let's talk about in this image which ones are consecutive interior angles. If we're looking at angle 1, nope, we're not looking at angle 1. I just totally lied to you. Why would we not look at angle 1 for this relationship? It's in the word, consecutive interior angles. Is the angle 1 on the interior? It's not on the inside of the image, so we're not going to find this relationship with number 1, but can we find this relationship with number 2? Yes, same side as number 2. What angle is on the same side as number 2 and on the inside? What angle's on the same side? Ooh, but also on the inside. 3, very good. Okay, so angle 2 and angle 3 are consecutive interior angles or same side interior angles. There's only one other pair of consecutive interior angles. One of them is going to be angle 6 because it's on the inside. Which angle is on the same side, consecutive side, and on the inside? Ooh, same side of the transversal, so same side of this line, but on the inside. We're using 6 in which one? 7, very good. Okay, so remember, for this one, it's on the same side of the transversal. So since 6 was in this image on the bottom of the transversal, you needed to pick an angle also on the bottom of the transversal, but in its opposite place. The next vocabulary word, again, your paper says consecutive. What does consecutive mean? Yours says consecutive. What does mine say? Same side. Again, consecutive means the same side. I want you to add that word in there. And again, we're going to do this one if we're looking at the color code from our coloring page today. Again, if you don't know what I mean, it's because you came to class late, and you will get the coloring page in a minute. Consecutive exterior angles. So this time I'm not looking on the inside of the parallel lines. I'm going to be looking on the outside of the parallel lines. Consecutive exterior angles are also supplementary, which means they equal 180 degrees. So this time we're only looking on the outsides of the parallel lines. But they need to be on the same side of the transversal. So if we were looking at angle 1, what angle is on the outside of the parallel lines, but on the same side or top of the transversal? Four, very good. Because it's on the outside of the image, outside of my parallel lines, and on the same side of the transversal. The other one that's on the outside is angle 5. What angle is also on the outside of the image, outside of the parallel lines, but underneath the transversal? 8. So this is going to be angle 8 is also partnered with 5 based on consecutive exterior angles. 2 more relationships, but again, the name says it all. For alternate interior angles, I want you to highlight that one in the blue or use a marker for the blue. These are going to be the blue color for our image. Alternate interior. Interior means we're looking on the inside of the parallel lines. Inside of the parallel lines. Alternate means opposite sides. So if I'm looking at angle 2, that's this angle right here. What other angle is on the inside of the parallel lines, but on the alternate side of the transversal? So we're looking on the inside of the image, but on the opposite side of the transversal. So if 2 is on top, we need... 6. So close, guys. It's actually going to be angle 7. Let's talk about that for a second. So if 2 is on, I'm going to keep calling it the top and bottom of this transversal. They're not always going to be tops and bottoms. It might be side to side. But 2 is on the top of this transversal. Alternate would be the bottom, but it needs to be over here. Alternate interior angles. See how they're like catty corner to each other? That's what you're looking for alternate interior angles. They're like diagonal to each other. In which case, if I was looking at angle 3, which one would be alternate interior to angle 3? 6. That one's the diagonal, the catty corner version for 3. Now, these are congruent. We said earlier that congruent means they have the same measurement. So if angle 3 is 80 degrees, angle 6 would be 80 degrees. Done. The last vocabulary word for today is alternate exterior angles. So again, alternate meaning opposites, exterior meaning on the outside. We're going to use the orange marker for this one. This is our orange color. alternate exterior angles. Alternate meaning opposite sides of my transversal, exterior meaning on the outside. These are going to also be congruent, so they would have the same measurement. Let's talk and make sure we can see which ones are alternate exterior angles. If I'm looking at angle 1, angle 1 is on the outside of my image, outside of the parallel lines. We want the angle that is the alternate exterior. 8, very good, because it's on the other side of the transversal and on the outside, here and here. Let's switch which one we're looking at. If we're looking at angle 5, which angle is alternate exterior? 4, very good. So those are alternate exterior angles. Now again, this is a lot of vocabulary for us to go over, which is why we color-coded it as best we could. I know I didn't add a lot of color code to your actual notes. That's what this document is for. So my friends who were late to class and I kept talking about the coloring page, it's this. I will put this back up at the end of class so you can color, but we need to keep going. Thank you for coming to class today. Please be on time. Okay, we'll get you caught up here in a little bit. But that color code is going to be really important so that we know how these angles are related to each other. That's our goal for today, to be able to use these relationships to solve further problems on parallel lines and transversals. Yes? Absolutely. What do you like to buy cookie for $1?
You have chocolate chip and M&M.
Ooh. Any takers?
No.
Nobody?
Thank you.
Have a good day, y'all.
Huh?
All right, let's go to the back of our notes. Now you might have to flip back and forth to the vocabulary every once in a while, but that's why you have the coloring sheet you did when we walked in, because that vocabulary will be there for you. What we're going to do is we're going to use the concepts that we learned about on the first page to answer some relationship questions. The first question says, in our image, that we have these two parallel lines. I know that they're parallel because of the beep boop symbol right here, the little arrow showing me they're parallel. They go the same direction. And we have our transversal. Right now, I don't care what color you use because it doesn't matter, but I want you to highlight the transversal so that we know that that's the one that we're comparing sides to for alternate and interior and consecutive and exterior. This is different from the image we had on the front. Our transversal on the front went flat. This one's going to go on a diagonal. But we're trying to figure out what the measurement of angle 1 is. Is there a relationship from your little coloring page that's going to match up angle 110 and angle 1? Yeah, which one is it called? They're in the same spots, right? Like if you look at the parallel lines, 110 and angle 1, they're like in the same spot. That means that they're congruent. So angle 1 is also going to be 110 degrees because it's what's called a corresponding angle. That's our red vocabulary word from the front. Corresponding angles. They're in the same spot. Now if we know, and I like to fill in my numbers as I go, so we know that angle 1 is 110 degrees. Wow, I cannot get that degree symbol to look right. Let me try it. I gotta zoom in because those numbers are so small. We also now want to know what the measure of angle 2 is. Is there a relationship between angle 1 and angle 2? What's it called? Well, they're kind of like in the same circle. So we're going to be using the stuff from the top row when they're like on the same, like, circle's maybe not the right word, but in the same quadrants, I guess. Aren't 110, angle 2 and 110, what is that called when they're like across from each other like that? Vertical angles. And vertical angles are congruent, which means we automatically know that angle 2 is also 110 degrees because it's a vertical angle with angle 1. So these vocabulary words allow me to know basically one piece of information and learn all the rest of the pieces of information for any particular set of transversals along parallel lines. Let's try another one. So again, you might have to flip back and forth to see what the picture looks like. That's why I think this would be most helpful, your coloring page, so you can figure out when those colors show up. So this next one, we're trying to figure out angle 1, but the only number we have is 65 degrees. So looking at your image right here, your coloring page, is there a certain relationship that looks like 65 degrees and 1? I forgot to highlight my transversal. Let's highlight our transversal. How are 65 and 1 related by an image on our coloring page? To me, they kind of look like the blue stuff. These are called alternate interior angles. Now that's a lot of words. We're going to call it alternate interior angles. Are y'all okay with that shortening? Alternate interior angles. So angle 1 is going to be the same degrees. Alternate interior are congruent. So these are the same degree. Okay, so we've now learned that angle 1 is 65 degrees. I like to fill in, like I said, I like to fill in my numbers as I go so I have more information. Now we want to partner up these two. What is it called when you have two numbers going along a linear line?
Corresponding angles?
No. They're like on this, they're like right next to each other and touching. Maybe look at the pink part of your paper. What's it called? What's the pink one called? It's a linear pair. Oops, I spelled that wrong. If they are a linear pair, we know that they have to add up to what number? 180. So to figure out what angle 2 is, we're just going to do 180 minus 65. And 180 minus 65 is 115. So very quickly, I can determine what angle 2 is because it's a linear pair with that 65 degrees. It is also consecutive exterior angle with 65. But consecutive exterior angles are also supplementary, so we would still subtract 180 minus 65, so we could have those numbers. Let's look at this last one. Okay, we need to highlight our transversal. Remember the two little lines that have the little beep boop arrows on it are my parallel lines, which means this is my transversal. Once we identify the transversal, we can kind of see how these different angles are related. We want to figure out angle 1. How is angle 1 related to the only named or numbered angle I have on here? What is that called when they're like this? Maybe look on your colored document. Look for something where the colors are the same across like this. No, that would be there on the same line, the same side. We want across like this. Vertical angles, very good. That's my yellow stuff. Vertical angles are congruent, which means angle 1 is also going to be 123 degrees because it is, again, vertical. Oops. That didn't work. Let me go reconnect to my air server. Thanks for telling me that happened. I would have just kept teaching my little heart out without any knowledge that I wasn't casting to the TV anymore. Okay, so we just decided that angle 1 is 123 degrees because it's vertical with 123 degrees. Now we need to figure out angle 2. How is angle 2 related to our angle 1? I'll give it to you right now. We're going to relate this to angle 1. How are these related right here? So look on your colored document for two colors that are on the inside of the parallel lines, and on the same side of the transversal. Same side interior, which we can also call consecutive interior. That was our green stuff. So we know that these have to add up to 180. So we're going to do 180 minus 123. What? I just totally did those numbers backwards. Oops. 123, which means that's going to be 57 degrees, again, because it's consecutive interior angles, or same side interior angles. Those are the same words. So we're going to have to utilize, that's why I think this colored document is the best thing for you. Again, my friends that came late, I got you here soon. We find the relationship between these two things and we go ahead and use it. Let me clean this one up because it doesn't look that good. All right. Here's where we're kind of headed with these questions. Next time we're going to use them in proofs, which we'll bring back proofs next time. We're going to have to use these concepts of how these angles are related to each other to solve for x, which we've done before when we had plane angles with supplementary and complementary. Our goal in problem 4 is to find the value of x and angle 4. All right, let's figure out some things we know. If we're looking for the value of angle 4, is it somehow related to something we already know? How are these two things related? These two things right here, how are they related? They're vertical, and now vertical means that they are what? Right next to the word vertical on your little document, what does it say? Equal. They are congruent. So we know that angle 4 is going to be equal to 115 degrees due to the fact that they are called vertical angles. Oop. That's why we know this. The next thing we know is that there is a relationship between angle 4 and this x plus 5. What is the relationship between these two angles right here? What is it called when they're inside the parallel lines and almost like next to each other? Maybe look at your green part of your document. Same side interior. Same side interior tells me that they should add up and equal 180 degrees. That's my consecutive or same side interiors. Okay, so we know these are related by the green relationship. Okay, well at this point, don't we know a value for angle 4? What is angle 4's measurement? 115. So we have 115 plus x plus 5 equal to 180. Guess what? It's time for the box method. Now I want to show you for sure the box method on this one because it's almost so simple that you might do it wrong. So when we start solving for x here, we draw our line, we draw our boxes. How many x terms are there up there? There's only one. You only need one top box. Don't panic. How many regular plain numbers are there? I see 3. 1, 2, 3. So we have 3 top boxes on that side. Okay, we drag and drop. The 115 goes all the way over here. Cross the line, change the sign. The x goes right here. Okay. The 5 goes across the line. We change the sign. The 180 goes into its box. Does this look familiar to us from when we did this in the first few units? Okay. The only thing that's weird about this is that there's nothing to add together on the x side. Don't panic. You just write it down again. If there's nothing to combine, don't combine anything. Negative 115 plus negative 5 plus 180 is 60. So what is the value of x? Oh, the coefficient of x is 1, which means we would divide both sides by 1, but 60 divided by 1 is still 60. So x is going to be equal to 60 degrees. Our last question for today is going to be very similar to question number 4. And again, this is our end goal with all this vocabulary, is to get used to how they're related to each other and then use it. So again, we're going to find the value of x and the value of angle 1 and explain our information each step. Okay, well here's an angle I know. How is this angle related to angle 1? What are they called when they look like this? Look for something that's on the same side of a line and touching. Linear pair. This was my pink vocabulary for today. These are linear pairs. So I can say the following. I can say that since they're linear pairs, angle 1 plus 138, I'm using the wrong color, let me back up. Angle 1 plus 136 is going to equal to 180. And again, that's because they are linear pairs. Okay, we do a quick little solve. We just have to subtract 136 to both sides. We would say that angle 1 is going to be equal to, what is that, 44 degrees? Yes. Fabulous. So now I know that angle 1 is 44 degrees. We now need to figure out a relationship between angle 1 and that thing with the x attached to it. So let's look at our document. Is there a relationship between angles that are basically on the opposites? They're on the outside of the parallel lines and on opposite sides of the transversal. What is that called? Alternate exterior. An alternate exterior on my document says that they are equal. So we know that 44 is going to be equal to 7x plus 9 degrees. Again, that is because of the orange vocabulary word for today, alternate exterior. Well, again, at this point, I just need to solve for x. So we draw our line and we draw our boxes. How many x terms are in that problem? 1. So the top box on the x side is just going to have 1 box. How many non-x values are there? 2. So we got 2 boxes on the other side. We drag and drop. 44 crossed the line, so we change the sign. 7x has to cross the line, so we change the sign. 9, just fine. There's nothing to add with negative 7x, so we just drop it down. And then negative 44 plus 9 is negative 35. The last step on this one is to divide by what number? Divide by negative 7. And when you do that, you would get x equal to a cute little positive 5. So that is the value of x in this problem. So here's what I want us to do. Obviously, a lot of us came in late today, and I get it, it's Friday. But our coloring page is going to be the best thing to help us out with. So what I want us to do is I want us to spend about 20 minutes, 20 minutes working on the worksheet you have for today if you've already colored, or I'll put the coloring page back up for those of you who need to color. This is going to be the most helpful. It's the same colors here as it is on our notes. I did that on purpose. After about 20 minutes, we're going to take the quiz that we skipped at the beginning of class since there was only 12 of us here. And we'll take our quiz over slopes of parallel and perpendicular lines to end the day. So 20 minutes of work time, and then we're going to take our quiz and finish the class that way. Does that make sense? Okay, those of you who need the coloring document, let me pull it back up.